Alright, in this video we're going to solve some more complicated linear equations, ones that have expressions that are in parentheses or that have variables on both sides of the equation or multiple occurrences of variables or both. These are a little bit more difficult to solve than our 1- and 2-step equations that we looked at in the last video, but with a few simple techniques we can make them fairly easy. Let's look at the first example here. We are going to solve 5 times the quantity x minus 2 plus 4 equals 11. Now this one, we've got some parentheses in there. Anytime you see parentheses in an equation, the first thing you want to do is you want to use the distributive property to get rid of those parentheses. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to distribute the 5 times x minus 2. So 5 times x is 5x, and 5 times minus 2 is minus 10. Everything else in the equation stays the same at that point. And now I have a couple of numbers to combine here on the left-hand side. So I've got a minus 10 and a plus 4. Those combine to make a minus 6. And then now I'm back to a simple standard 2-step equation. I'm going to add 6 to both sides. And I'm going to divide both sides by 5. And I get that x is equal to 17 over 5. Or if you prefer, 3.4. Whichever one of those you prefer, the fraction or the decimal. Alright. In part B, we've got x's on both sides of the equation. One thing that we've got to be careful of, we want to completely combine all the numbers on each side of the equation and all the variables on each side of the equation before we start moving things from one side of the equation to the other. This is a very common mistake that students make. See, we've got multiple occurrences of x here on the right-hand side. The first thing we want to do in solving this equation is to combine those two. So we'll leave the left-hand side alone for a moment, and we'll combine the positive 2x and the positive 6x. That makes 8x. And now at this point, I want to get all my variables on one side, all my numbers on the other side. It doesn't matter which side we move the variables to, which side we move the numbers to. We just have to pick. I'm going to move my variables over to the left, so that means I want to get rid of the 8x that's on the right-hand side. And I'm going to take 8x away from the left-hand side as well. And I want to move all my numbers over to the right-hand side, so that means I want to get rid of my numbers that are on the left. So I want to get rid of a plus 3, so I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. And now I'm just going to go ahead and do the arithmetic. 5x minus 8x gives me negative 3x on this side. The plus 3 and minus 3 cancel out. The 8x and the minus 8x cancel each other out. And minus 9 minus 3 gives us a minus 12. And now from here, I'm just going to divide both sides by negative 3 to get x by itself. And we end up with x equals 4. Okay. Ooh, this one's a doozy. Lots of sets of parentheses. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and distribute through all these sets of parentheses. 3 times x minus 2, that's 3 times x. And 3 times minus 2, which is minus 6. Plus 5 times x plus 3, so we're going to multiply a plus 5 times both things in that set of parentheses. That gives us a plus 5x and a plus 15, 5 times 3. And then on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, we've got a negative 2 times the quantity x minus 4. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times a minus 4, the negative and the negative make it a positive, and that becomes a plus 8. Now I want to combine all of my x's on the left and all of my numbers on the left before I proceed. I want to get all those variables and all those numbers combined on their particular side of the equation before I start moving things from one side to the other. And there we are. And now I'm going to decide, I'm going to move all my x's over to the left-hand side. So I want to get rid of the minus 2x on the right. So that means I'm going to add 2x to both sides. And I want to get rid of the plus 9 that's on the left-hand side, so I'm going to subtract 9 from each side. Notice here, if you extended like a little line down from the equal sign, we're doing these operations, one on the right-hand side, one on the left-hand side. A very common thing that I've seen from students over the years is that they try and subtract a number and they subtract it from the same side of the equation twice. If it's helpful for you to extend this line down and remind yourself that something should only happen once on each side of this line, go ahead and do that. Whatever's helpful to you in being as accurate as you possibly can. So on the left-hand side now, I've got 8x plus 2x gives me 10x. The plus 9 and minus 9 cancel each other out. The minus 2x and the plus 2x cancel each other out. And plus 8 and minus 9 combines to make minus 1. And now we can get our x's by just dividing both sides. And we end up with x equals negative 1 over 10. Or if you like decimals, negative 0.1. Either one of those is an acceptable final answer. Okay. And one more. Oh, super doozy. Parentheses all over the place. Whew. Lots of distributing here. So we're going to take 4 and distribute it through the first set of parentheses. That gives us 8x plus 20. Then we've got a plus 2 that we're going to distribute through the next set. That gives us plus 6x minus 14, 2 times 7. And that's equal to, and now we'll distribute the 3. 3 times 2x gives us 6x. 3 times minus 3 gives us minus 9. And now we've got this minus 5 that we're distributing. Minus 5 times 2x gives us a minus 10x. And minus 5 times a positive 1 gives us a minus 5. That's one of the most common places that students make errors, is when they've got a subtraction sign in front of a distribution. You've got to remember that you need to distribute that minus sign through the parentheses as well through both terms. All right, now that we've done that, we want to combine all the like terms on the left-hand side of the equation. All of our x's and all of our numbers need to be combined. So 8x plus 6x gives us 14x. Plus 20 and a minus 14 gives us plus 6. Now we want to do the same thing on the right-hand side. We want to combine all of the x's and all the numbers. And so let's see, we've got 6x and a minus 10x. Those combine to make a minus 4x. And minus 9 and minus 5 combine to make minus 14. And now we're at that stage again where we want to get all of our variables on one side, all of our numbers on the other. Doesn't matter which side is which. I'm just going to go ahead and, again, move my x's over to the left. By adding 4x to both sides gets rid of the x's on the right. Move all my numbers to the right by subtracting 6 from both sides. And now I go through and do these additions. Now I do 14x plus 4x gives me 18x. And I do plus 6 minus 6. Those cancel each other out, so they're gone. I do my minus 4x and my plus 4x. Those cancel each other out, so they're gone. And then I do my minus 14 and my minus 16. Combine those, I get negative 20. And now I'm going to divide both sides by 18 to get x by itself. We get x equals, reduce this, that's negative 10 over 9, since I can take 2 out of both of those. Or if we prefer the decimal, that's a negative 1.1 repeating. So either one of those would be good as our final answer. And that concludes this video on how we solve some more complicated linear equations, ones with parentheses and multiple occurrences of variables and numbers on both sides. I hope you've taken some pointers from this that will make you a little bit more successful as you solve these equations in the future. See you next time.